Greetings everybody, medicropper here. I've been very excited to make this video. Been wanting to make it, well, ever since I made my veg update for this garden. But now it's time to actually show you guys what I got going on here. Welcome to day 9 of flower in my 18,000 watt green crack flower room. I should call this a sea of green because it is a sea of green and it's green crack. But for now we're just going to call it the 18,000 watt green crack flower room. I'm going to try and give you a tour of the entire garden. So to start with, in this corner upon entering the garden, I've got a garbage bag that needs to go to the dump and some 4-foot T5 lights that I was going to put in here, but I decided not to. On Instagram I posted that photo saying I have a surprise, and the surprise was going to be underlighting, but I ended up not putting underlighting in here. I instead did an aggressive lollipop and determined that because I lollipopped so high up the plant, the underlighting would not be effective. But anyway, here's just 6 extra lights sitting here. The rest are not in here. And then a bag of stuff I need to return to Home Depot that I didn't use. So that's the shelf upon entering the garden. And then from there, we have 3 box fans strategically placed to create the right airflow that I need in this part of the garden. Up on the wall here, I have my intake. I have a 10-inch max fan intake, and then it Ys into 2 8-inch pieces of ducting. This is one of the 8-inch pieces of ducting. It was coming through here and going back into the back corner of the garden, but this part of the garden was a little too cold because of that, so I cut these slots in it to relieve some of the pressure of the air, and now we have a little bit of airflow coming out of these cracks, and then the perfect amount coming out back there in the corner of the garden in order to keep this part of the garden cool. So the air enters up there, and I've got this box fan blowing up at it to disperse the cool air across the top of the canopy here. So I basically kept cutting slots in this until the right amount of air was coming out of the end for this part of the garden. So it's just the perfect temperature in here. Right now the entire garden, pretty much no matter where you go, is going to be right about 75 degrees. These box fans are all set up to move the air appropriately across the garden. Obviously these are blowing at an upward angle, so any cool air that comes out of these and decides to drop down on the floor gets blown back up towards the lights by these 2 fans. So let's just have a look. I did put trellis netting in. I put 2 layers in. They are 8 inches apart. You can see here. Got my bottom layer that I put in right at day 1 of flower, and I put it right at the top of the plants. And then 8 inches higher I put in my second layer trellis netting. I do have a 3rd row of hooks 8 inches higher yet, but I did not put trellis netting in for that because these green crack don't stretch too much, they more bush out. So I think just the 8-inch spread between the 2 layers is going to be plenty. At day 9 now, I do have a few plants that have tops poking up maybe as high as 4 inches above the second layer. So if I do need to, I will raise this to the 3rd set of hooks, which will be a total pain in the ass, because that means I'm going to have to crawl all the way under the canopy everywhere in order to raise it up. So I have to get to the hooks everywhere to raise it. So I probably won't need to do that. If I do end up having to do anything, it will be having to crawl through and kind of scrog out a few of the tops that are poking up higher. Like you can see, I think the highest point in the whole garden is with that plant right back there, and it is 4 inches above the second trellis netting, so I might have to scrog that out. There's a few around there that are a few inches higher, but if it doesn't stretch too much more, I can't imagine it will stretch more than 4 or 5 more inches. It should be fine for the entire growth. I don't want to have anything flop in here. If a couple things flop or just kind of bend a little bit, that's okay. But I don't want like colas laying on top of each other, because this strain is susceptible to bud rot. Anyway, I've got trellis netting everywhere. You can see 2 lights there, Oh, another thing is I changed my light since last video, guys. I want to talk about the adjust wings really quickly. Before I had all my adjust wings lined up so the downward arc of the hoods were all facing each other. So this was turned that way, creating a downward slope like that, and then that one was creating a downward slope like that. So they were meeting and they were creating hot spots. Not heat spots, but like light bleaching problems. And that's what I've had on my last few grows. I had lines of yellow plants where the two concave parts of the hood came down and met. There'd be like a streak of yellow, which is the furthest point from the bulb. If there was going to be like a hot spot from heat, it would be directly under the bulb because that's like the hottest part. But it's actually off to the side between the reflectors, causing a light bleaching effect. So what I did is I went through the entire garden and I rotated every other light 45 degrees. 90 degrees. Sorry, I rotated 90 degrees. That way I never have two concave arcs of the hood facing each other. So these two are fine how they are. And then this one is next to that one, which is that way. And then it goes back to that. And then you can see from there, we go to that one, and then that one. You see this? And then that one over there faces that way, but then this one faces this way, and so on down the entire garden. Okay, so I did change that. And so far I haven't experienced any light bleaching now that I don't have two lights with the intensity there in the middle. So here are the plants, all nice and scrogged out. I just did a little bit of, scrogging to me is more like when you actually train the plants under the screen. And although this is like 5x5, these squares, it's not quite a screen, but I guess you could call it that. I haven't really done any scrogging or any bending like that. I've just kind of let them grow up through. If I can reach, I'll like go through. If I see like an empty hole, like there's some space there, I'll try and like pull the branches, do a little bit of scrogging just to fill it out more. But at this point I've given up and I don't have access to the majority of the plants, so I'm just gonna let them fill out on their own. So that's what we have going on there. All my trellis netting I patched together with zip ties. You can see that. So it's all clean. It's very tight, like taut, like a spider web. Very good. Took me most of a day to get both these layers in. Of course I had to put both layers of trellis up at the same time, because if I put one layer up, then I won't have access to the hooks to put the other layer up. Okay, so this is the back part of the garden. Wraps around nicely. Goes through here, all the way out there. Okay, that is 8,000 watts worth. We have two lights, so that's 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's 8,000 watts worth in that big footprint there. And day 9, we're already mostly filled in. The canopy is pretty full. I have a little bit of space between these two rows, which I purposely want in case I have to access the back of the garden. I want at least like a little area that I can kind of crawl through without, having to really struggle and stay low commando style. Like I can at least get my hands and knees and crawl through there, but it still might fill out pretty well too. Also, there's no drip lines or anything down that row, so it's like a perfect little crawl space if I really need to access the garden, or the back of the garden. However, I don't intend on having to do that. So let's continue on. So 8,000 watts there. And you can see it wraps around there. We're gonna walk down the hallway. Here's my wand and hose that go to my watering pump for when I need to hand water stuff in veg. Right now everything's on the watering system. And then here's the other back part of the garden. All perfectly trellised in. And here's the money shot, guys. Ready for it? Isn't that beautiful? All perfectly trellised, nicely filled in, even, wonderful, healthy, luscious green crack plants. So the far end down there by that far wall is where We were just looking from the other side. Then the middle section here is 4 more lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, all flip-flopped, every other one. That's covering the center section. And then the back section here is 6 lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? For a total of 18,000 watts. We got my outtake fans over there. The 8-inch fan stays on 24 hours a day, just to always keep air flowing through the garden. The 12-inch comes on when the lights come on to allow more airflow to keep the temperature down during lights on. So all fresh air. I have air conditioners, but they're turned off and not running. I have a CO2 generator, but it's turned off and not running. Just all fresh air, guys. So 24 hours a day I have passive intake and an 8-inch fan with an outtake. And then 12 hours a day when the lights are on, I have 10-inch intake and 12-inch outtake. You can see here, these are my 3rd row of hooks in case I needed to put in another higher Charleston netting. All the way around the entire garden I have just a 3rd row of hooks everywhere. But I don't think I'll need that. Anyway, day 9, and you can see I still have a few little holes here and there, but I think within the next week everything should be filled out really nicely. And we are seeing some buds starting to form. It's pretty good for day 9. Definitely some early bud development. Yeah, and then if I need to access the back part of the room there, I have another little hidden crawl space right here where I have no watering system to have to walk over. You know, like I've got watering system between most of the rows. See that? But right here, I've got a nice little crawl space. But I don't anticipate ever having to use it. Remember, I lollipop these aggressively right before I put them in the flower, like 3 days before I put them in the flower. I let them recover, and then I went ahead and flipped the lights. And I'm not doing any more lollipopping in here. I'm not putting underlighting in or anything. It's just going to stay like this. So we still have plenty of airspace between the foliage and the root system. My watering system works absolutely perfectly. Very pleased with it. I was concerned because it used to be set up in three sections. There's this section, the middle section, and the back section when I was running the garden before I made the changes. But when I added this whole section of plants, I was just able to do some modifications down here and add in a 4th section. And really, I just leave everything open. I don't have to mess with any valves whatsoever. I don't have to close any or anything, restrict any, nothing. Plug in my pump and it waters all the plants. Totally even. It's very nice. The only plants that don't need quite as much water are these ones right here in the front, because my other intake is coming from back there, so the cool air kind of sits in my feeding room, my nutrient room, and since these are the closest to that, it's just a little bit cooler there, so it tends just doesn't evaporate off as fast. So these couple plants are a little bit more moist. But I think I'm going to put another box fan in something right around here to blow air up so it doesn't mess with these plants. That's what I did back there and it worked great. Obviously, guys, when running a garden this size and putting in trellis laying to the point where you don't have access to the garden at all during flower, you have to be 100% confident that you will have no problems during flower. And that's hard to do. The fact that I've basically trapped myself from accessing any of the plants in flower means that I am very confident that I will not have to access the plants. There are no mites in here, no chance of powdery mildew, no chance of the watering system screwing up in one plant, not getting enough water in the far back, so I have to crawl back there and do something. Everything is totally on point, guys. There is zero margin for error. You cannot have any doubts whatsoever if you're going to put trellis netting up like this and have no access to the garden. And my veg update video where I was talking about spraying for mites, I was going to spray like the next week after that, but after making that video I just waited like one day, came in here, found no mites anywhere, so I just waited it off. I just wanted to see if I was going to have more mites, so I vegged for like 4 or 5 more days and then decided to come in and lollipop and really inspect every plant. I did that, found no living mites or anything, so I went ahead and sprayed one last time with Azamax after the lollipop. That way I could really get access to the whole part of the plant because I had lollipopped so much off, it was much easier to spray, and then went ahead and flipped the flower so I didn't have to spray with any more Floramite or Avid, anything like that. Just I hit them one more time with Azamax, everything was perfect, decided to go ahead and flip. So that's where we're at. I would say that there's no chance of me having any mites in here unless they somehow come in through the intake, which I don't see that happening. Or on my clothes, which I don't see that happening either, because I don't even really touch the plants, and I'm not in any dirty gardens or anything like that. So yeah, this is going to be a beautiful grow, guys. This site's going to be awesome. Next week, this top layer of trellis will be more hidden, and 5 weeks after that, it's going to just be a sea of green crap colas. It's going to be beautiful. Alright, I think that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this last montage of videos. I did a video a day for the last 4 days. I did green crack today. Yesterday I did the blueberry and banana grow. The day before that I did the Forum Cut Girl Scout cookies. And the day before that I did the 11,000 watt Romulan grow. So, a lot of videos. I hope you still watch them all. I do want to let my East Coasters know that I tentatively booked a flight to Philadelphia. Next Wednesday I'll be flying in, so if anyone on the East Coast wants to meet up around the Philly area or anywhere around there, I'm gonna, most likely, as long as I get on the plane, because it's a standby ticket I used from one of my buddies that's a pilot, as long as I get on the plane I'll be there next Wednesday in Philly, and I'll rent a car and drive around and try to meet up with some people. So if you want to meet up, hit me up, and if I make it out there I'll do my best to try and meet up with as many people as possible. Okay guys, that's it for the 18,000 watt green crack flower room. I'll get at you in a few more days, probably back in the Romulan room or something like that. Alright, peace.